Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good evening to you, and welcome along to the Locker Room. You lucky people, you are joined by me and Robbie again, same as last night. People might have thought we were just staying on, Robbie, until tonight, but no, we have lives outside here. Well, Robbie does that. I don't know about me. Welcome to the show. We've got a busy show as always. So joined by Robbie as always. Robbie, how are you?
I am doing well. As you say, just enjoying the Scottish sun. It's not often in our country we get sun like this, so it's nice to enjoy it. I'm not going to come on the show and pretend that my nerves aren't shot for Saturday. We know how big the games are, but I am excited to get stuck into some of the action. Obviously, there's some big questions being asked tonight as well, so it should be a good show.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll try and tell you a couple of jokes and kind of like calm you down. In fact, maybe not my jokes, because then it will make you as nervous yeah. So we'll dive into that. Also, we'll have Reagan joining us soon as well. And in the second hour of the show tonight, we will have Alan Risk joining us, a big Falkirk fan, looking ahead to the game at Somerset Park. And I was just saying to Robbie before we came on air, Ayre's going to be a busy place this weekend because of the nice weather. People down the beach, the game tonight, and also you've got the Grand National tomorrow, Robbie.
Aye, it's going to be a very, anybody that works in there is going to have a blast this weekend. It's the money maker. Obviously tonight we've got a very big game. I'm sure we'll speak to Alan about it later. I know if Livingston drop points tomorrow, they can become champions. So it's a big weekend for everybody involved in it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also, get your comments coming in on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram as well. Also, we want to, in the last couple of weeks on the show, we've been asking for your young player of the year. Last week, we done a player of the year. Tonight, we're on to a manager of the year. So we're going to get the guys' comments on that, and also I've just get any thoughts about your team, who your manager of the year will be. Leave them in the comments as well, and we'll get to them. And also because I thought do something a bit different now. Because this is the last round of fixtures, Robbie, before the top six, bottom six kind of thing, I decided to ask people is watching, do you like the split? Now, I'm asking the question tonight because by 4:45 tomorrow, Mr. Robbie might love it or hate it. So, and I'm asking you in the chat as well if you like the top six or hate the top six. So you can put in the chat why you don't like the split as well. I think we'll just kick off with that one before we go on to our games tomorrow. Before I ask Robbie this, big game, big sporting weekend actually. We've got the football, we've got the Grand National tomorrow down in Ayr. We have got the golf going on in America, and also we've got the Women's Six Nations rugby. So a lot to go on to between now and 7 o'clock. We'll try and talk about horse racing because I know Robbie's got a wee punt on, as we say in the West of Scotland, and Robbie can be our racing correspondent, and if it doesn't come off well, it's the very last time you'll see Robbie on this show.
Well, put it this way, Michael, I've put on 2 horses in my life before this, and neither of them have came in the top 3. So, if my bets are anything to go by, do not trust me.
Well, funny enough, I put on a bet about 10 years ago, and I just got a phone call just to say my horse is just coming home after about 10 years. So I don't know where, maybe went to the pub or something. I don't know. So, yeah, Robbie, Here's Reagan coming on as we speak. Reagan, how are you?
Not bad, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Yep. As well. I was just explaining to everybody that we'll be looking for your manager of the year tonight, but also we will be talking about the split as well. So before we go on to the games, guys, what's your thoughts about the split? I'll ask Robbie first.
I love the top. I love the split. That's a question that I love the split. I think it's great. I think it creates tension in the league. We're in a situation where if we do end up in top six tomorrow, by the end of the season, if results don't go away in the top half, it could work out 11th place in the league, end up with more points than us, which that doesn't happen in any other league in the world. But I love the split. I think I more don't like. Obviously there's been a lot of talk about league reconstruction. I'm not a fan of how small the league is. I think we should have more teams in the league, but I still think you should keep the split aspect. For me, that's I think that adds a lot more to our game. Adds a lot more intrigue. Again, in no other league in the world do you get these top six battles. Where teams are actually playing for a bit more money, but also the chance of playing European football. This is Motherwell, St Mirren, and Hearts battling it for this tomorrow, and to me, that's better than anything that you see in the Premier League. We're already in the Premier League. There's already been a team that's confirmed relegated. To me, that's a bit boring. There's still a good 5-6 weeks left of the season. We're in a league where, if say we don't get top six, we're no, the season's not over. There's still a lot to fight for. We still need to try and stay up. So for me, the split, I get why some people might look in at a league and go, how does that work? But see, once you get used to it, I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a wee while to get kind of used to it, Robbie, but I mean, it's quite exciting for a neutral kind of fan. But obviously, if you're involved in the last game tomorrow, it can be a bit of excitement, but also it can be a bit of kind of nerves as well.
It creates a lot of nerves. I'm not going to pretend I'm not nervous for tomorrow. I think it'll be a massive game, but it does just create that, excitement of, you've got one eye on the game that you're at, but you're also checking your phone. The Motherwell versus Hearts is going to be on every St Mirren fan's mind tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a cracker. It is.
It's going to be a very good game. And I hope we can get the job done. But
Hi, Paul.
One eye's always going to be on Motherwell Hearts tomorrow, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes down. But I love this. But Reagan, for someone like you who is very as a Celtic fan and watches a lot of Celtic, how do you feel about the split for your point of view?
I like it because I think it creates a interest as well. Because I remember it years and years ago, you were looking out to see who Rangers and Aberdeen got because potentially it could be harder matches for them for the league running, but it's just sadly this season we've not got a title race on our hands. But I think overall, guys, I think it's a great thing for the league, and I think for the first time in a while, actually, we've actually got probably the biggest 6 teams that are sitting in the top 6 at the moment. I know Robbie and Motherwell fans will shut me down and won't want to destroy me in that, but I think it is great for the league as well that Hibs, Aberdeen, and Dundee United are doing well as well because I think it creates great interest. I mean, look at the Dundee derbies. I've got no interest in Dundee or Dundee United, but see when I watch the Dundee derbies, there's always interest in those games, and there's always something happening in them. I think they're my favourite matches to watch in Scottish football, to be honest with you, Robbie, because over the past few years, the contest has not been between Celtic and Rangers. It's been elsewhere in the table.
Aye, I think your point's spot on. I do agree. By the way, I do think, in my opinion, that the top 6 we have right now is probably the 6 biggest clubs in the country. But I love nothing more than go into that top six and knock Hearts out tomorrow. But look, I think on Paul's comment as well, I do agree with it a bit. I do think we should have a bigger league, but you can still keep. I was reading an article. I think it was a account on X. I can't remember the name. And they were talking about league reconstruction, and they found a way that if you have the 16 or 18 team league, you can still have the split aspect, which to me would be perfect for our game if we can expand the league to have, the full Cup, Stayers, Livingstones, etc. in our league, but keep the split aspect. That to me would be a perfect league.
There you go.
I think that would be ideal because we would have 14 teams. Really, we're not asking for miracles here. We're asking for something that could actually work.
Yeah.
Okay,
so good evening to, as I say, Paul there as well. And good evening to Jogi watching the show on Facebook. He says, come on, the Saints. Now, I don't know if that's at Millen or St Johnson. So if you can maybe clarify that, because I'll be up all night worried about that now. And if you believe that, Robbie, yes, I do believe in Santa. As well. That's a horrible thing to say to another adult, Robbie. That's terrible. Just in case anybody phones the police and tells them about Robbie's been back to Michael. No, it's not. We're just having a bit of summer fun. As well. Okay, so get your comments coming in about who your manager of the year will be, and do you like the split? Yes or no, and tell us the reasons why. There was a reason why I asked Robbie that question tonight, Reagan, and not on Sunday night. As well, work that one out if you want. So tomorrow. We've got the champions. Well, it's only a matter of time now. Celtic plays Kilmarnock at Celtic
Yeah,
Park.
Celtic might have been the champions probably since about November, December time because they were 14 points ahead then. So, yeah, it's just been a case of champions elect since November, December time.
And it's a bit disappointing for Reagan and the Celtic fans not to go along and celebrate tomorrow, Robbie, because obviously St Johnson done well last week against Celtic. It was a brilliant performance by Valakari's team, but that means Celtic can't win the league tomorrow. I think it might be after the split now.
Yeah, I believe they can also win it if Aberdeen beat Rangers on Sunday. So it can still be won this weekend, but obviously they'll be disappointed that they aren't there to celebrate it in person tomorrow. But there's, I think, not to get too ahead of myself, we've not got into the game yet, but I can imagine this will be a pretty comfortable win for Celtic. Saying that, I think Rodgers has been very clear that there's a mentality issue at Celtic right now. It seems like since maybe January, February time, the heads have maybe dropped a bit. Which, look, Celtic fans are allowed to be, and the Celtic players, they work so hard up until January that, they can maybe play with a bit of freedom. But saying that, Celtic fans are not happy with the way it's gone the last couple of weeks. It's not been great. There's a lot of Celtic fans that, I've asked well about Nicholas Kuhn. I was speaking to a Celtic fan earlier today, actually, and he was very vocal, not wanting Kuhn to be at the club anymore. I think his mentality's gone a bit, which, that is interesting. But to me, it seems like Celtic fans are in agreement that there's a big summer needed for Rodgers. He needs to add more quality. He needs to try and keep that mentality going for next season. Get that strong mentality back that that we never stopped that we've seen under Ange. Because Celtic, if Rangers next season are in a title race and whoever manager they bring in, they're doing well. Celtic will need that big team mentality to push them through.
Reagan, I had a kind of start last night. Am I right in saying that it's been a kind of up and down season for Celtic, and especially the second half? Am I right in saying that Celtic's lost 6 games up till now?
Yes, 6 matches in 2025.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
And I think, like Robbie's saying there, I think a lot of the players have kind of took the foot off the pedal. If you want to say a better word for that, Michael.
Yeah, going back to what's your take on Reagan that Robbie was saying about his he was speaking to a Celtic fan and he said that maybe I'm paraphrasing Robbie here, but I'm sure Robbie said about Nicholas couldn't get him. One of his pals says Nicholas couldn't. He should never be anywhere near kind of Celtic. That's kind of a bit harsh for him to say that.
I do agree with Robbie's friend then in terms of Nicholas Kuhn because he's not performed. He was a player of the year candidate up until a few weeks ago, but he's not performed, Michael. The past few weeks. Are you able to hear me? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, he was performing well up to the last few weeks, and I think in terms of what Nicholas is doing, of course he's doing okay at the moment, but I think Celtic fans just see him going on second gear in terms of he's not really showing that form that he was showing in the first part of the season. Is that what your friend was meaning there, Robbie? I think. And Michael, I've got my Celtic team for tomorrow. I've just written it down for you. I've got Sinisalo in goal. My back four is Navrocki and CCV. My left back would be Slip. My right back would be Johnson. My three in the midfield would be McGregor, Engels, and Luke. And my two wingers, because I don't know if you noticed, Michael, but Brendan Rodgers said that Yang has picked up a significant injury, so Yang will be out. So I would go with James Forrest to play as a winger, and my other winger would be I would go with Jota. So I would go with James Forrest and Jota to play winger. Then I would go Maeda through the middle. Robbie, what in terms of that? The starting 11 I've just picked, Robbie. What do you make it, Robbie?
Yeah, I think you're pretty much spot on. But I think James Forrest deserves to start with. I know he never got a goal against St Johnstone. He get very unlucky not to get a goal against St Johnstone. I've got to say, I thought his play off the ball was exceptional. You know, a lot of Celtic fans took, mainly took the negatives out of the game. But if you watch the way the Celtic team actually played, you know, it wasn't a bad Celtic performance. They just struggled to find the net. And I thought when James Forrest came on, I thought it was good off the ball. Obviously getting himself into good areas. He had that chance that credit to Fisher. He saved it well. I think that I don't think many people would complain with that team sheet, to be honest. I think they're spot on with most of your picks. I'm quite enjoying Schlupp at the moment. I don't think he had the greatest game at McDermott Park, but I do like him as a player. I think he should play with Celtic, you know, for sort of going on in the next season as well. But I think on Kuhn, my mate's point was more, you know, that fall off, that mentality issue. You know, I think my mate's maybe kind of worried that continues into next season. You know, the last thing Celtic fans want is players that haven't got the right mentality and they can't keep it going for 38 games a season. I think that's maybe why he's so Kuhn.
Yeah, I just feel like, Robbie, you know, if you asked any Celtic supporter, would they rather be 8 points clear or 13 points clear? They'd rather be 13 points clear. So I don't get the annoyance sometimes, you know, because see, as much as like everybody complains about the standard of Scottish football, you can't then criticise the standard of Scottish football and then when St Mirren or St Johnstone do well against you, say, we should put these teams to bed, because at the end of the day, there's going to be the odd time that they do defeat you. You need to get over it, because at the end of the day, I think Ian Crocker mentioned it on Sky last week. My good friend Ian Crocker, he said that basically that St John's not beaten Celtic since 2015. So I think that Celtic fans need a bit of a reality check, Robbie. And I don't know if it's just maybe the social media age that we're in at the moment, where that because if Celtic win a treble this year, that'll be six trebles in nearly 10 years. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's incredible. I think you said it on last night's show as well. If football was played on paper, you wouldn't put your money into watching it. The whole point of having a league is, everybody should have a chance of beating everybody. Now, obviously, the stat you read out earlier, is it 6 defeats in 2025? That's, for a Celtic team, that isn't good enough. And look, I think Celtic fans know that these defeats will come every once in a while. I remember when we beat Celtic, when Ange was nearly 365 days unbeaten with Celtic. The Celtic fans can be critical, but again, every team loses a game of football. Celtic are never going to win every single game, as much as obviously every fan would want that. It's not going to happen in our game, so it's only right that, as along with the criticism, and you can be critical of that front three, because I didn't think they were good enough against St Johnstone. No taking their chances. I think you can also give them praise that they're on for another treble. As you said, like the stats, the amount of trebles Celtic have won in the last 10 years is frightening.
And I think, Robbie, as well, that see, like the Hibs match, when Hibs beat Celtic, and then a week later they had the Scottish match at Celtic Park. Now, I think this just might work in Celtic's favour, where they now know that St Johnstone can beat them, so they will just think that, right, well, we know that St Johnstone can beat us, so we better put our feet on the pedal, do you know what I mean? So that makes Celtic more angry and think, well, we need to up a game here, because St Johnstone are capable to beat us.
Aye, I mean the thing is, it's such a it's a hamster wheel kind of debate. You can say Celtic put up their game for the semi final, but what more can you do? You're over 20 shots on goal, over I think 10 on target. If it's not for Fisher having a game like Ferry had against Rangers, Celtic score 3 or 4. So I get it. Look, you can
And
always.
I think Robbie as well, that if you look at it as well, I mean, James Forrest should have scored 2. Luke should have definitely scored 1 when he came on as well. So there was chances there for something to score.
Yeah, on another day it's 3 or 4 1 to Celtic. That's what I mean. Like to me, look, I think Celtic fans will expect more, but what much more can the Celtic players do except for score? They're doing the whole game plan perfectly. They're keeping the ball, they're playing it a bit well, they're creating chances. It's just one of the games where they can't score. It happens to every team. But look, obviously 6 defeats in 2025. It's no, that's something Celtic fans can be critical about, and I think Rodgers knows that that's not good enough for Celtic. He's been very vocal in the press this week actually about demanding more and wanting to work towards a better and stronger squad next season. So he knows himself that there's some changes needed at Celtic.
And
I think you're right. And no, I was just going to say, I think you're right, Reagan, as well. Like social media, because it is. But I know this is a football show, but everything evolves around social media.
I think sometimes that people can get bogged down in what every week people to play brilliant. These guys are no robots. And I think the point that Paul Donaldson makes here, that's why I brought it up. He says even when Celtic win the treble, they'll not be happy. And that's probably true, because people will say, well, Celtic have limped over the line, they've done whatever. But see, at the end of the day, it's never hard to win a treble. It's never hard. I mean, it's never easy. Sorry, it's never easy.
Never hard.
And I think you know what I was trying to say, Michael. You know what I was trying to say.
It's
not, yeah. What I mean is, it's never an easy thing to do. So I think Celtic fans just need a bit of a reality check. I think because see, if you look at before Martin O'Neill came in 2000, Celtic had only won 1 or 2 trebles in their full history. But because these fans have been so used to treble after treble, Brendan Rodgers, then Ange Postecoglou, it's totally different.
Yeah.
And I would even go to say, like, winning these titles is it's no as well. It sounds quite spoiled, but that's what I believe some Celtic fans are. They are spoiled. Do you know? Like, I'm the guy that still gets emotional at the end of the season to win a title. I don't care if people say that Rangers are rubbish or whatever. But I mean, poor Michael, he lived through the 90s. You know what I mean? You just think about that. Celtic were rotten back then. Michael was probably getting battered at school because Celtic were rubbish and Rangers were the dominant team. You know,
I
and,
don't
and,
know
and
what
that
you mean that. I was going nappies.
I don't know about that, Michael. I mean, I have seen your passport.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
But one thing, Reagan, I think Celtic fans can be upset is they've lost two Old Firms to Rangers now.
Yeah.
You know, that's a Rangers team that aren't having a particularly good season, and I get it. Rangers, when you know they're the almost underdogs in these European ties and against the bigger teams, they do tend to do well, but that's unacceptable. Celtic should not be losing two Old Firm games a season now. Again, football's not played on paper, but was you're in
I get it,
but
Robbie. I get it, right? I totally understand what you mean. But see in Scottish football, I think sometimes we tend to forget that as much as it's skill and it's heart and whatever else, seeing the Celtic Rangers matches, it's not all about skill and heart. It's all about who turns up on the
Uh-oh.
day and who plays well. Because, like, I remember when Celtic were playing years and years ago, and they were never they never expected to win these games. It was always Rangers that were expected to win these games, and Celtic always turned up. I remember when probably Michael was there, but when Scott McDonald scored a great goal, when Barry Robson scored a penalty, 2007, 2008 season, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably say he was still in that but it wasn't. Michael, I mean now it's
No, they
that was
didn't have any left at the shop that day.
that was a Rangers team that was full of quality. You had Pedro Mendes, you had Nikita Jelavic, Daniel Kuzan, people like that. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Uh,
Reagan, so just can I ask you a question quickly on that? And I do get your point, and I agree. I think whoever turns up on the day tends to win. But for me, Brendan Rodgers, and I think Celtic fans have a right to be worried that why are Celtic not turning up for a game at Celtic Park against Rangers? Why are Rangers scoring 3 goals at Celtic Park?
I think the thing you do say there about the amount of chances and goals they're conceding, that definitely is a worry. Because I think the reason why they are losing to Rangers is subconsciously, but because like of the match Celtic played at Ibrox, they were 16 points ahead. Now, as much as people can say, but it's a different game and whatever else, but as people like Scott Brown will tell you, you also need that edge. You also need that enthusiasm. And see if these players that go out in the pitch, they've not got the right enthusiasm, they're not going to win the game. You need see the biggest thing in football. Uh, t- t- see talent's great, but see attitude that'll get you anywhere over talent. I know I sound a bit like a motivational coach here, guys, but that's true though. I mean, talent will attitude will get you there over talent.
There you go, Robbie. We're going to have a brilliant show now because Reagan's gave us a Kim. Oh, we're live. I forgot about that. I thought that was before the show. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, Reagan. From a Kilmarnock perspective, Robbie, it's been a very kind of up and down season and very annoying season as well because obviously they're not going to make the top six now, and obviously Derek McInnes has been talking about that over the past couple of weeks. So, how would you sum up Kilmarnock's season?
I think bizarre's the only word. I really struggle to look at that Kilmarnock team and see any form of consistency. And for me, it's not the results on the pitch, the decisions that McInnes is making. McInnes is benching guys that are on $4,000 a week. He's benching the Danny Armstrongs that were one of the best players in the league last season. He's benching again the $4,000 a week Calvin Ramsey that he brought in on loan. Meant to be a star right back, and then he's playing Brad Lyons at right back, who plays centrally in the midfield. For me, it seems to me like McInnes has experimented with a few things this season that's not worked, and he's got no plan B. For me, it's been a very poor season for Kilmarnock, and it's not a team that I look at, and it's not a squad that I look at that should be in a relegation battle. It really shouldn't. It should be nowhere near it. And it's interesting because some of the stats, I mean, I think it's Bruce Anderson that's got the best goals per 90-minute ratio in the Kilmarnock team, yet McInnes is benching him most weeks. To me, McInnes looks like he's run out of ideas, which isn't a good thing. And to me, he's benching too many important players. I cannot believe this year, if you said to any Kilmarnock fan or anyone on the show last season, would Danny Armstrong be on the bench for a majority of games next season, they would have laughed at you. But that's the situation we're in.
I mean, I thought he was one of the players of the year last season for the young player, Robbie.
Yeah, I thought so as well, and it's just baffling to me. I mean, again, McInnes' body language tells you a lot. I got to obviously see him up close in Paisley a couple of weeks ago. He looked scared facing the Kilmarnock fans. That was the only word I could use to describe it. He looked nervous. Said, after the third one went in, he didn't come out the dugout area. So to me, McInnes looks like he's getting a wee bit nervous, which is never good for a team that, let's be honest, the odds are stacked against them tomorrow. And then getting into the split, you'd back maybe a Dundee and St Johnstone to take points after them. So it's going to be a struggle for the last 5 games.
He said yesterday that it's going to be a tough test going to Celtic Park, but equally it's going to be tough for them. Meaning to say that we're going to go there, it's going to be a tough game, but we're going to try and make it tough for Celtic as well. But I'll be interested to see how Celtic reacts, but also after that defeat last week against St Johnstone, I think that the way Brendan Rodgers was talking in the media today and this week and last week, he was trying to fire the team up because he's basically using the line, Robbie, that he wants his team to sprint, to run over the line, not to walk. And I think Kilmarnock will find it a bit difficult tomorrow.
Yeah, it sounds like Brendan, to me, Brendan Rodgers is one of, if not the best, one of the best managers Celtic have ever had anyway. As much as fans might not like the way he left, and look, I get that, there's friends I know that don't particularly like Rodgers because of the way he left, but they can respect that he's a good manager who's about to deliver another treble. Rodgers will know that he doesn't want any more poor results. Rodgers wants to win the next however many matches are left in his season. I know the cup games are still there as well, so I think it's 7 or 8 games left for Celtic now. They'll know that they want to go out in every one of these, and they don't want to struggle. They want to make sure that they win every single game they've got left, because if more points start getting dropped and more sloppy performances start happening, it adds more pressure onto that team. And with a big semi-final coming up next week, the last thing Celtic want tomorrow is to be sloppy against Kilmarnock.
Paul Donaldson makes a comment that you were talking about earlier on, Robbie, about Denton McInnes as he ran out of ideas. Well, Paul basically said McInnes ran out of ideas. Most Aberdeen fans were saying that for about 3 or 4 years before. Wow, that's hard to believe. Aberdeen fans were saying that 3 or 4 years before he was actually finally sacked.
Paul, I'd love to ask you if you're still watching. On McInnes, I keep bringing it up, but I kept badly looking at his body language, and it's interesting. I don't tend to do it with managers. Managers are usually quite cool, calm and collected, and you don't really know what they're thinking. But to me, it was very clear that McInnes looked nervous. To me, it was a scared manager. It was a manager that didn't know what was going on. Now, obviously, that was a bit of a different type of result. We scored 2 goals very quickly. But even at that, to me, he just does not look like he wants to face these Kilmarnock fans, which is never good when, I don't know how many numbers Kilmarnock have sold for tomorrow, but I'm going to guess quite a lot of the crowd are going to be going through to watch that one. And then in the split games as well, they're going to be playing at Rugby Park against teams that they're trying to stay up against. How is McInnes going to cope with that? To me, it just looks like McInnes is out of ideas. I think I read a stat that out the last 5 games, he's used 6 or 7 different midfield combinations in the whole game, which to me is bizarre.
I mean, we get no be a bit weird if Air United comes up and Kilmarnock goes down, because obviously Reagan was talking about the Dundee derby, but I would be blunt to see that the Dundee derby, obviously you've got the Celtic one and the Ayrshire derby as well.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Kilmarnock finish 11th in the league and then Ayr go through in the playoffs and we get a Ayr versus Kilmarnock in the playoffs. I mean,
yeah.
that would be good TV to watch.
Yeah,
That would be very good.
box office. That
Ah,
that happened to Dundee and Dundee United a few seasons back, and did Dundee not relegate United in the second game?
yeah, I think so. That it creates that sort of thing. I remember when we
Mm.
relegated, we kept Dundee United down. But I remember Vaclav Lachy had penalty heroics in that. Dundee United seem to have a pretty poor record in the playoffs, but like I love playoffs for that reason. Like I don't want us ever anywhere near playoffs again. Like I think everybody's, every team around our level will always struggle in a season eventually. I get that, but see if we ever go into the playoffs, I love nothing more than to have Morton. I think a two-legged affair against Morton on the TV would be very, very good.
Well, gives a quick point before we hear from Brendan Rodgers. You've been in that situation, Robbie. I think me and you might disagree on this point. Maybe not, because I like you. You're a brilliant guy and all that. But playoffs, two legs. What do you think? For me, no.
Not in the final. I don't think a playoff final should have two legs ever.
Yep.
In the semis, I can get it, and I think the playoff final should be done at a neutral stadium. I think the playoff final should be done at Hampden. I think that's only fair. Could you imagine that Ayr versus Kilmarnock playoff final at Hampden Park to see who comes up and who goes down? I mean, that would be amazing to watch. But to me, I think in the semis, if you're going to have a two legs, I think that's fine. But I agree with you. In the final, it should only be one.
Yeah, they should actually do the same as they do in England. Obviously, I know we've not got the financial side and all that, but make it a big game at like Hampden Park, or maybe Tynecastle, whatever, and put up a cup as well. Make it something really special in a one-off game. And yeah, I mean, I can see the point of semi-finals, even the quarterfinals being two legs as well, same as they do in the Champions League, Robbie. But when I've never heard of, we can only do this in Scottish football. When have you ever heard of a final over two games?
I know, it's bizarre. It only happens in Scottish football. I remember watching the playoff final a couple of years ago in the Championship with Sheffield Wednesday in England, and some of the scenes at Wembley. I mean, could you imagine a Ayr win against Kilmarnock in a penalty shootout to put their place in the Premiership? I mean, the scenes were a bit extraordinary at Hampden. Like, that is what we missed out on, two legs. I remember when we played Dundee United, I think we drew the first one, I think it was 0-0 at Tannadice. Coming back to Paisley, it went to a penalty, but it just, to me, that's no playoff magic. That's not what it's about. And it was a great moment, and we stayed up, and obviously Placky had a really good penalty shootout save. But to me, a playoff moment should be you're in your neutral ground. It's one game. It's winner takes everything. It's that excitement. It's that nervousness. I think it's just everything that we should have. And I don't know if any of you guys know how difficult it would be to make that happen. I mean, surely that point's been put across before. I don't know. Surely it wouldn't be that difficult to change it to, you play a one-legged tie in the final.
Well, how would you feel telling any fan that makes a Scottish Cup final, guys, you're not going to win the cup today. It's going to be on Wednesday night when it's raining and snowing and all that, only in Scottish football. Let us know in the chat about how you feel about the playoffs games. Do you think it should be one game, or do you think it's going to be two games as well? But what I mean, a final for me, Robbie, is just a one-off game. It doesn't have to be, a final two legs tie. It doesn't seem right, Paul Donaldson's making a comment. He says the UEFA Cup final used to be over two legs. Dundee United played two-legged final in the UEFA Cup. So there you go. Let's move on then to Oh no, quickly, Brendan Rodgers said about the game that we make it. Most of his press conference, Robbie, was talking about do you think his team has run out of steam and all the rest of it. But Brendan Rodgers said that we need to get back to winning ways after a very disappointing day on Sunday. Let's move. Talking about Sunday, then we have two games on Sunday. Actually, we'll go back to Saturday in a minute. In fact, we'll run through the games because we're quite nice to you in the show. In fact, too nice at times. The game on Sunday at 12 o'clock, we've got Aberdeen against Rangers. Hibs and Dundee at half two kickoff. Saturday, back to Saturday. Dundee United against Johnson, a wee dabber there. Motherwell against Hearts, a cracking game there, and a cracking game at Robbie Skigum as well. Well, not Robbie Skigum, you don't own that Skigum. St Mirren against Ross County. So, Robbie, talk to me about. We were on the show last night after the Bilbao game, but I'm hearing a lot of Rangers fans now saying that Sunday doesn't matter. I mean, I get that fans get, I get that fans have opinions and all that, but really,
Yeah, but it doesn't matter in terms of Rangers having any fight in the league because the league's over. But this is still a big game. I don't agree with the BBC saying this game of the weekend right enough. For me, you've got to give it to Motherwell versus Hearts.
Yeah.
But saying that, it's a big game, But Reagan said it on the show before, I wish he was here right now to sing the Hamza Agaman song because we all know he loves that. A wee bit of karaoke. But Aberdeen and Rangers.
That's good. It's good that he's not here to sing that, Robbie.
But Aberdeen and Rangers, they dislike each other. I think I'm more intrigued to see the Rangers line up more than anything. I think I look at what Barry said after the first leg last night. It will be a fully changed Rangers team. He will need to rest his best players because he knows how big this is next week. But Aberdeen, this is a big game for Aberdeen. They're still in the hunt for third place. Their season's not over and they're also in a cup semi-final. So, they want to be in as high spirits as possible. I'm sure Paul in the chat will be looking forward to this one. I don't know if he's gone or no, but I'm sure he'll be. I suppose that's what I'm to answer, but I'm sure Aberdeen fans will be feeling confident, which you don't often say when Aberdeen play Rangers. We're obviously going to watch them early in the season when they were on that good run. They obviously beat Rangers, but to me, this is a pretty big game for Aberdeen. Not so much for Rangers. I don't agree with Michael with Rangers fans saying it's a meaningless game and it's nothing. Every Rangers fan will want to win this game, but I can see what they mean in terms of the full focus now shifts onto Bilbao on Thursday. So I think they're just trying to get through this game. I mean, can you imagine what a dominant Aberdeen 3-0 win would do to the Rangers' confidence in the players? I mean, I think that would hurt them for Thursday. So it's pretty big that Rangers don't get embarrassed.
Well, there you go, Robbie. Paul Donaldson's answered you. We ask a question and you come and answer. It's brilliant. That's the way the show works. Paul Donaldson on YouTube saying, for Aberdeen fans, are playing of our main rivals, and I suppose that what I mean, Robbie, is his main rivals in terms of the fans as well, because this goes back years and years ago. But it's always a massive game, especially at home.
Yeah, I love Aberdeen Rangers games. I think it's great. I remember watching the one Ibrox when Scott Brown scored, and just the pure passion for Brown.
And they fell when they scored.
Yeah. And just the passion for the Aberdeen fans. I remember watching it in Neil Warnock's first game in charge. Obviously, Warnock's a completely different story, but watching them at Ibrox, on that night, the fans were good, and watching them at home, I've not go to Pittodrie yet. I hope to maybe get there next season, if I can, but to me, Aberdeen have always been one that I just enjoy watching their matches. Aberdeen are just that club that you can always rely on them to put on a good game, and give you a good game as well. So to me, this is going to be a good game at the weekend, but it's no match of the weekend for me.
No, Motherwell and Hearts.
It's going to be a cracker.
The winner takes all rigging at that game.
It's going to be a cracker. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, Motherwell Hearts should be a really good game. Motherwell played well last few weeks. A wee bit of a dip in form. I did say Kamala would beat them last week. I did say Kamala would beat Motherwell. On last week's show, you can go back and watch it. And I just feel like Motherwell, I think that they've got a real good chance of making top 6. The same with St Mirren. I think, what were you saying last night, Robbie? If St Mirren need to happen, but obviously St Mirren.
So all we need to do is win, and we hope Hearts don't win. If Motherwell draw or beat Hearts, then if we beat Ross County, we've guaranteed top 6.
I can see that happening, to be honest with you, because I don't see, even though I've enjoyed Hearts over the past few weeks, I still feel like there's improvements that have been made, and that was showed last Sunday. I know you're not a big fan of Jim Goodwin, but he certainly did you a favour last Sunday, Robbie.
Aye, aye, done us a very big turn. Look, Jim Goodwin knows us a top 6 finish. And that's all I'll say on Jim Goodwin. But no, I mean, look, back to Aberdeen versus Rangers, Reagan. I mean, you've got to be excited at the prospect of this one. Again, BBC, I don't agree with him saying it's game of the weekend, but Paul mentioned in the comments with how big it is to both sets of fans, and Rangers' confidence for Thursday night as well.
Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing to watch it. I mean, I always like Aberdeen Rangers. It's a bit like a derby game, but yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that Rangers are nowhere to be seen in the league. Well, I'm saying it's a shame, but it's not actually. I mean, yeah, but it will be a cracker. But well, like you were saying last night, Robbie, I mean, Barry Ferguson will try and he will try and experiment, because as Andy Harley said last night elsewhere, he was saying that basically he feels that Barry should be resting players for Sunday's for next Thursday's match, and I do tend to agree. That's what I said to you last night. I think he should be playing people like Bazrami, Danilo. You should be playing players like that to try, even McCausland, because these players know what to do in Scotland, and if you can do that for them, and you can give them the option, right? Well, I'm going to give you the opportunity, because for people like McCausland and Bazrami, they've not done well this season, but they'll be glad to get an opportunity to prove to Barry, I should be in there, because how often have you seen it, Robbie, even down south, where, let's say, what, I don't know, say Arne Slot brings in Jones from Liverpool and to McAllister, and then Jones scores 2, and then everybody goes, well, he should play the following game. So let's just say, for instance, that Bazrami scored a hat trick against Aberdeen. Then that then puts him in the frame to then play again next week.
Aye, and what I would say, Reagan, though, is Rangers need to be careful, because look, I know their focus will be in Bilbao, but confidence is a big part of football. You know, you can have as much skill as you want, as much talent as you want, but if you're not playing well, it's going to affect the players. If Rangers got out of Pittodrie on Sunday and Aberdeen put 2 or 3 past them and Rangers don't score, what does that do to the confidence of the players?
Yeah, but I suppose after last night they'll be a little more confident. Robbie, I just going to ask you in terms of what Stephen Naismith was saying. I know last night I called him a boring pundit. I've got a cheek after me calling Stephen Naismith a boring pundit, but I just think he always says the most obvious thing rather than actually telling you any insight. But yeah, I'm just interested in what he was saying. He said from now on that he believes that Liam Kelly should be the number 1. Now I just don't know how you can base that on one game and say, right, well, Liam Kelly should be number 1. Yeah. But is that a case of Stephen A. Smith jumping on the pundit bandwagon, or do you actually believe that there's any sense of what he's saying?
What I'd say is I'd ask the question to anyone that thinks Butland should play on Sunday. Why should Butland play? That's
I
more
don't
my
know.
question.
No, I'm not saying he should play, Robbie. I'm just saying that I don't agree that Liam Kelly was really tested last night. I was expecting more from Athletic Club. I was expecting more from them.
Yeah, I agree.
And what I would say was, I wouldn't say he was outstanding. I mean, he had to come for a few crosses. He tipped one over the bar, and he made a penalty save. It's not as if he was like 6 or 7 outstanding saves.
Yeah, but what I would say is, I think you're right. Look, for the short term, for the next couple of games, there's no doubt in my mind it should be Kelly. And that's not based off of how Kelly done against Bilbao. That's based off of how Jack Butland's done the last 3 or 4 games. To me, you cannot put a guy back in that right now. And I'm not saying this is all time Jack Butland, because he's a very quality player. But right now, he shouldn't be playing games where he's prone to making a mistake. For me, Liam Kelly, for the short term anyway, I don't think he is Rangers number 1. I think it is Butland. But for the short term and for the next couple of games, there's no doubt in my mind it should be Kelly, because Kelly, to me, hasn't shown what Butland's shown the last few games, and these mistakes. Butland's conceded 5 goals in his last 2 games that he's played, and let's be honest, they could have prevented a good 3 or 4 of them.
Robbie, I'm going to ask you something then, right? So say Rangers lose 1-0 to Aberdeen on Sunday, right? But Liam Kelly's not fall for the goal. Are you still starting Liam Kelly on Thursday, or what are you doing? Because that's a question that's a question that Barry and the coaching staff will be asking themselves on Monday morning, and I'm putting it to you on Friday night.
Well, it's always an interesting question. I'd bring up the same point again. To me, is Barry looking at the way Butland is the now, and look, Alan McGregor and Barry will be seeing Butland in training, and they'll know better than us. But for what we're seeing on the park, nothing about the next week gives me any confidence that Jack Butland will do well in goals against Aberdeen or Athletic Club. I think he'll struggle. I think he'll struggle against both.
I Robbie, agree with that. And what I will say is, I do think that Barry's handled it really well, though. I will say that, because he's not through Jack Butland under the bus, saying he's been really bad at that.
Is that the bus? Is that the bus Naismith is on? And
yeah, he said,
David Martindale.
Yeah, I mean, like what a few weeks ago it was, who was it, Kenny Miller, and who else? There was a few others. I like to call people out. If they've got a problem, they can come and see me. I'm kidding.
Next week on the show will be Stephen Naismith.
Yeah, but we'll be doing it live from Reagan's house next week.
No, Michael, for all the microphones that you need, the electricity bill's too low here. You need to watch what you're doing here.
I believe my answer, yeah.
Yep.
And that's Aberdeen, Robbie. This is the warm up to the Scottish Cup semi-final next week. So everybody will be playing for places in the team next week.
Yeah, as Paul said in the comments, the team lineup is going to be interesting. It was I think Paul would be the first to say it was a sluggish performance at Dingwall. I think Shayden Morris got a very good goal, a goal that deserved them to win. But he's right. Is there going to be any changes? Is Tilleen maybe going to favour Odie Daba up front? I don't know. I think Daba's a good big player that can potentially make an impact. I think he'll stick with Shayden Morris. Not just for the goal, but I think Shayden's a good player. I think he's got a bit of pace, a bit of energy.
He's got that quality. Yeah,
I think that's. I know you were talking about the team there, Robbie, but Paul Donaldson says, I wonder what you think of the Aberdeen lineup. Should we continue with Graham Shinney at left back? Should Shane Morris start or come off the bench in the second half?
Yeah, like I'm not going to give my thoughts out on Graham Shinnie because I don't think he should be a football player in the Premiership in 2025, but that's just my opinion.
Oh,
I
talk
like
about
like
talk about controversial opinions. It's not just me, Michael. It's Robbie as
Oh,
well.
you and Reagan said do a wee bitching session sometime.
like,
Yeah,
but no, like we know like a player like Leighton Clarkson's quality. We know what he can bring. I'm excited to see a bit more of Kevin Nisbet. Actually, I've been surprised since he's come back to
Yep,
Scotland. You know,
yeah.
he's not exactly hit the goal heights that I remember him having for. Was it Dunfermline? Am I right in saying Dunfermline? Or was it
yep,
no?
no feminine, aye.
Aye, Dunfermline, and
Even
then Hibs.
even when I was at Hibs as well, Robbie.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I don't think it was bad at Hibs. I thought it was actually a pretty good goal scorer, and
He
that's what I
scored an
mean.
absolute he scored an absolute cracker. I think it was against Motherwell a few weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, he scored a really good goal. But I mean, look, and compared to when he was here last time, I certainly don't think he's been up at the heights. I mean, like another centre back I quite like, Alfred Dorrington. I know he's on loan for down in England. I
Alfie
think,
Dorrington.
yeah,
He's a good player. I've watched him for a couple of years. Alfie's. I said that to you guys when he was touted at Aberdeen. He's been really good for Spurs. They won the FA Youth Cup and that. Probably he's a good player.
yeah. He's a strong player as well. He's good for Scottish football. But like, I think this will be a good taster of what's to come next week because that is such a big game against Hearts. You know, that's a semi. That's your chance. You know that this is what we mean. Like, you know, Michael, you were asking me the question earlier about the 1 and 2 legged playoff system. Can you
Mhm.
like can you imagine like see the scenes we're going to get? Obviously, I know Graham's been very vocal about it. You know, Hearts have sold over 22,000 tickets, which by the way, extraordinary for Hearts fans to do that. I'm sure Aberdeen are going to match it. But like to me, that's the beauty of this. You know, it is at Hampden. It's just such a good place to go if it's a 50-50 split. You know, it builds more anticipation. It's good to see, and
Yep.
I think Aberdeen will be right up for this.
And Michael,
Okay.
it'll be great that me and you're going to be on next Saturday for that game.
Yeah, Robbie set us up very nicely there, didn't he, Reagan?
We're going
Because
to be on. It's going to be great.
we'll be on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so no getting away from us. And first game night as well for the Babal Rangers game. It's all happening here, by the way.
I mean, I hope Michael's paying his double time.
Yeah, well, I don't know about double time, but it'll be 2 legs. We'll be doing as well. So yeah, that's a big game on Sunday at 12 o'clock kickoff. I'm happy, guys, as well because I'm always happy. It's
It's not like you.
Friday. Well, exactly. I get paid today. Yeah, I'm happy for the second weekend in a row. Not because I'm not happy at the weekend, Robbie, by the way, but just to see another game on TV on Sunday, and when we're on air, there'll be Hibs and Dundee on.
Yeah, very very good to see. We've actually got I think we've got 5 games on TV this weekend. We've got 3 in the men's Premiership and we've got 2 in the women's Premiership as well, which
Mm-hmm.
is
There you
only a
go.
good
Robbie's
thing.
got to be advertisement there.
Uh, which is only no, look, it's only a good thing for the game. Obviously, the 3 big games in the Premiership, then then the Old Firm in the women's league as well. So it's going to be a good weekend of Scottish football. But like, there's no place you'd rather be than the locker room. Of course, come on, this weekend, next
Well
weekend, you need
done,
to join
Robbie.
us.
Well done.
I pulled it back. I pulled it back.
Yeah, you did. Mate, before St Mirren gets beat tomorrow. No, I
Right.
never said. Did I say that? Did I say that? Okay, sorry. But yeah, I mean, Hibs and Dundee. I mean, we talk about this every week, Reagan. I don't know what's happened to Dundee this season, but I mean, this game is the tale of two halves because Hibs didn't start the season that well, and then Dundee's absolutely just falling away by the weight every week.
Yeah, but Dundee have come back the last few weeks and doing well. Robbie, I was going to ask you, what do you make of this debate on social media, on things like that, and talking about it's time and money for Scotland? I'm actually for it, Robbie. You know,
I'd be,
I'm interested in your thoughts and Michael as well.
I'd be all for it.
I'm actually for it because see people like Che Adams. Che Adams he's doing nothing for us. He's doing nothing. The whole Che Adams is not listening either. But when's the last time Che Adams scored a goal? I think Che Adams has been speaking to Ollie McBurney because Ollie McBurney was playing for Scotland and people were going, he's great to get the ball up to him and do well and bring others into play. He offers nothing. And I'm just glad that Simon Murray is doing really well, Robbie. And I would like to see Simon Murray play for Scotland. I don't know about you.
Why not? He's a very good goal scorer. I got to watch it last week. You know, say what you want about what Zach Hemming done for the second goal, but Murray still had a lot of work to do, and it was a very composed finish. For me, I look at the Scotland strikers. I look at Kevin Nisbet, who, yes, I think he's good, but he's not hitting the heights. He's not getting the goals. We've got Jay Adams. Don't think he's doing much. Shankland's not doing much. But why not give Simon Murray a go? You know, with Simon Murray's up there with Dyson Maeda, who, you know, I'm not saying people in the show are, but there's Celtic fans that are touting him for one of the best players this season. And I don't just mean in the league. Some people are trying to say he's the best player in this whole season.
And Robbie, I think if Steve Clark can he can play players that are not playing, such as Grant Hanley and Kenny McLean, then he can surely throw in a guy that's scoring goals in the Scottish Premier League.
Well, look, it's not going to be bad. Like, nothing surprises me with Steve Clark. It really doesn't. I mean, like, I'm not going to. It's not going to surprise me if Eamon Brophy gets picked for the next Scotland team. I mean, that's the type of guy Steve Clark is. But like, again, as I said, Simon Murray's up there with Dyson Maeda for the top goal scorer list. He could still get it. So why not fling on? There's absolutely no harm in flinging Simon Murray into the mix. It can get you goals, you know. For the guy that, you know, he's not the youngest player, but he still got legs, and he knows how to finish a ball as well.
Gentlemen.
Which is what Scotland missed. All right, mate.
Hi, Alan. How are you, mate?
Aye, very well, very well. Excited for tonight.
Yeah, we'll dive into the game in a wee bit. We're just talking about the well, in your case, maybe a small matter of the Hibs Dundee game tomorrow on Sunday. But Reagan and I know you're a big Scotland fan as well, Alan. But like Reagan asked us a question about Simon Murray being in the Scotland squad. I don't know about you, but I feel it's overdue. I mean, I felt he should have been in the Scotland squad even when he was at Ross County.
Yeah, I think it is overdue. One of the issues that he has is that Clark is obviously quite loyal to his squad, and the players who haven't been in it as much recently, you like your Nisbets, are also obviously kind of performing. So he does deserve a call up. It is overdue. He's kind of got his strikers that he's stuck with, and it's that kind of situation where we don't take a whole lot of forwards.
Alan, as I was saying to the guys there, like people like Jay Adams, he's done nothing for Scotland. He's hardly scored. You know, so I just feel like it's okay saying, well, Steve Clark's got the players that he likes, like Jay Adams. Well, what do you like about him? Is he playing poker and then Scotland nights in at the hotel? He's not scoring goals. He's there to score goals. He's not there to be everybody's best friend. Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally understand. I think that's what we're all, as football fans, as Scotland fans, all we're crying out for is a number 9 who just scores goals. And that's something we've been lacking for a long time. I think with Adams, he does give you that work rate where he comes in. I mean, we've seen it in a few of the big results we've had over the years. He's featured. I mean, he has also scored a few goals, not anywhere near as much as we'd like. I think what we hoped with this season in Italy is that he has scored more than he has recently in a top league. So we're hoping that could sort of translate into international football. It hasn't really. But he's reliable. I think he works best with someone up alongside him. And I think we've not yet found the next Lyndon Dykes.
Well, Rob, I would go as far to say that if London Dykes hadn't broke his leg before the last Scotland game, he probably would have been in the squad.
He probably would have. It's whether you're one of there's a chain of thought that now where we are more recently in terms of as a squad and the way we've been performing, do we pick a player who's in League One in England?
Well,
Yeah,
I think Steve Clark's above that claim because Grant Hanley, he's not playing for Birmingham who just got promoted, and well done to them, because there's a few Scottish players playing in there, and obviously a few players that play in the Scottish Premier League. But I just think Steve Clark's selection is baffling, to be honest, Alan.
it is. But the problem is, you look at it. We got the away result. We won in Greece, and as long as those results, I mean, no, before the first Greece game, a lot of people were slating the squad. After it, what was the feeling? It was joy. It was brilliant. It was a Steve Clark masterclass to
I
get the result
understand what
away. Yeah,
but the home game was a mess.
it was. Aye, no, you're totally right, and that's the balance. Is he managed to get the result away, but it's that consistency. And I think we've come off the back of a really strong Nations League campaign, which gave us the playoff. So I think that was a positive camp for everyone. See, for me though, and this is whether it's right or wrong, I think without Doak in our squad, we are a different side. And I think the biggest thing we missed to get the result in Greece was phenomenal. If we had Doak back for the second game, I don't think they get as much invitation to come forward because they have to leave someone to watch him. And I just think I don't want to be a one-trick pony, but we don't have the quality elsewhere at the moment, or at least Steve Clark's not starting it. We need a player like Doak, and we can't really afford to play without him.
Alan, is there any chance John McGlynn could have a word with Arfield and see if he'll switch back to being Scottish, because we could be doing with him in the midfield right now?
To be honest, I don't think it's that position that we're really struggling in. I think the way that we're going, Gilmore has been playing more advanced in the last few weeks with Napoli. Or at the very least, if he's sitting deeper, he's got that sort of freedom to go forward. I mean, he got an assist for Lukaku, a brilliant assist recently.
Yeah, it was a great one against Roma.
I'm going to try and pull you back in, guys, and talk about the game on. It's amazing how when you mention something that's a wee seed that you plant, and then before you know it, you've got to cut it because it's overgrown in the back door. That's a bit like my garden work at the back door, but we'll leave that to another show. Hibs and Dundee. I know you've not got any kind of interest in the game at Arlington on Sunday, but are you looking forward to this one?
Of course, it's. I think both clubs have. Hibs have turned their season around. Obviously, that's been the chat. Quite rightly, you guys are obviously discussing manager of the years. There is a train of thought again that goes along the line of that Gray has done a phenomenal job when he was up against it and almost getting booted out to turn it around, get the results, and ultimately get them on this absolute steam train that's gone through the old firm. So I think in terms of where both their stories are lining up, Goodwin's also done phenomenal. For them to be the promoted side, I think a lot of people forget that when you look at that league that Dundee United came up last season. So to come straight in and be fighting, even with an opportunity for third, never mind top six, that's phenomenal. So you've got almost, I know that Hibs will see themselves as probably favourites now, but I feel like it should be quite an open game of football because where they both come from, they've not got a whole lot to lose. It's just solidifying top six status.
Don't tell Robbie that Jim Goodwin could be manager of the year. He's not.
You never know. You never know who I could pick. You never know.
There you go, Robbie.
I think Robbie will be okay, Reagan, to say that because he's actually sitting down. Robbie, he's not standing up doing the show. And if you're standing up for 2 hours doing the show, well, you might end up in hospital after the show. I'm not sure. So the final word goes to you, Robbie, on this game. What are you expecting? Are you expecting a open game, or are you expecting backs to the wall for Dundee for the 90 minutes?
I don't think it'll be backs to the wall for 90 minutes, but I think, look, Dundee will need to take their chances when it comes. Getting to watch Simon Murray last week, we know how clinical he is. As I said earlier, he's in the hunt for the top goal scorer award at the end of the season, so he'll know any chance that comes his way he needs to score. But I can't look past a rampant Hibs team that just they can honestly beat anyone right now. I truly believe that Hibs could beat anyone in a top flight. David Gray has got them playing that well, so for me, I think it'll be a Hibs win on Sunday.
There you go. Okay, let's move on to the now. I don't right. I'm gonna get your guys' opinion on this, right? So do you know Dave Smith? It's on the show sometimes, right? He was on the show a few. I think it was last season when we had this conversation, and he pulled me up, right? Because and nobody pulls me up. Nobody pulls bait, right? But Dundee United and St Johnson is, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's a bit of a derby, right? And Dave says no, it's not a derby at all. But they used to call it the. Am I right in saying, Ireland, they used to call this one the new film derby?
I'm not. No, no. I think you're thinking more along the lines of Aberdeen, Dundee
Yeah,
United.
yeah. That's why you're on the show to correct me. I gave it the big build up, and Alan comes in and gives it a risk assessment, and it just falls by the wayside. So yeah, just forget that. What I was saying for about 5 seconds ago, and just talk about the game. The game now, can we edit this out? No, we can't. It's live. Dundee United and St Johnson. Obviously, Robbie, St Johnson will be a bit of on high after last week's brilliant performance against Celtic, and I think like St Johnson kind of like defended well as well.
Aye, this is going to be an interesting game. I think I backed St Johnson to go up there and get the result. And look, Dundee United surprised me. I wasn't expecting such a good performance against Hearts. After Dundee United confirmed top six status, I sort of thought, right, they'll like to try and win games, but they'll sort of have their feet up, if you get what I mean. Goodwin will be happy with that season. He said at the start of the season his main priority was staying in the division. He's well overachieved that now. So I thought they'd be a wee bit more comfortable, but look, they still look like they're about to go and win. And I think they will. I think they'll keep. I think they'll keep going after the split. This game, though, for what I've seen for St Johnstone, a very good defensive performance. Very good on the counter attack as well, which I expect again. I think Dundee United will have more of the ball. I expect St Johnstone to be very much a counter attacking side, but I think this is shaping up to be a very interesting game. I'm actually excited to see who comes out on top. Again, Dundee United, they're still in with a chance at third. They're only 3 points off of Hibs. Nothing's confirmed yet in that sort of top, sort of 5th to 3rd. It's still very much wide open, so it's going to be an interesting game.
Alan, this St Johnson side is one of the stories of the season. I know that I'm asking you guys tonight for your manager of the year, and comment in if you've got a manager of the year in mind. I think I know Alan might be a bit biased, but I think I can forgive him for that as well, because I think he'll be up there in the running for the manager of the year. But Simo Valakari, what an amazing job that he's came in, because in Christmas, most of us at Johnson fans, but all of us at Johnson fans thought they were away. They were away to the championship, and now they've got a second life.
Yeah, that's the nature of a decent manager. He's managed to get a tune out of a side, as you say, who look destined for the drop, and they've managed to find a little bit of consistency, especially of late, which has really given them that opportunity. The biggest challenge this week is going to be they were on such a high, had such a brilliant performance, and can they keep those levels where they need to be? Because naturally, this game, it isn't going to be the same. Dundee United aren't the same quality of side, so you're going to find a more open game. So can they play when they've got a bit more impetus about them? They've had some really really good results and a mixture of home and away. I watched the Livingston game live, and I wondered. It was a moment of class, that goal in the Livingston game. I just
Brilliant
felt
goal,
like
yeah.
without that, they didn't really look like scoring, and they had a couple of chances against Celtic. They didn't just have the one. But are they going to be able to create opportunities against a well-drilled and, as you say, fighting for third Goodwin side? That's going to be the challenge because it's a big game to get themselves back up for again.
It's interesting to say. Obviously, I had Alistair on the show on Sunday, and I think he was very open and honest about not getting too ahead of himself. Obviously in the moment after Sunday's game, he was very much on the higher, just beating Celtic, but he knew that the odds were still stacked against it, Johnson. It's not a written story that it's, as Michael said, it's not good. It might not have a happy ending. They might still end up going down, but I think they can be positive. At least they're going to have Valakari, but I think on this game, it was very open and honest about it's not going to be easy. He knows that. He knows it's going to be a different type of game. He knows that any chance that St Johnstone do have, they're going to hit the back of the net. And as you said, Darren, they're going to be well drilled defensively because you know what you're going to get for a Jim Goodwin team. He sets his teams up very well.
I think in terms of St Johnson, Alan, I said this to Robbie last week on the show, not knowing the score, because obviously if I was psychic, because we were doing the show on Friday. But do you think that the St Johnson players were riled up even more because it felt as though it was a home game for Celtic because Celtic had like 3 scans and St Johnson only had 1 scan as well. So do you think that St Johnson had the kind of like mentality to go out there and say, well, Celtic is expecting to turn up here and Goose win the game because they've kind of sold the 3 scans. So do you think that St Johnson had a bit of kind of like fire in the belly as well?
Yeah, I think that plays into it. What I would also say is that there's no escaping the fact that everyone has sort of seen Celtic's form sort of falter since January, since the league's been almost secured. You see that in the performances against Rangers, but also in some of the other performances, be it Hibs, now St Johnstone. I think when you're a side who needs points, you have to change your mentality and look at games rather than say, okay, we're going to get nothing. Anything against Celtic's a bonus. I think what we're seeing is a side there who kind of went in and goes, well, actually, we can get something for this. We just need to be on it. And you can say what you want, Celtic have an off day or whatever, but they ultimately had an off day because St Johnstone forced them to have an off day. Like I say, St Johnstone could have had 2 and made it even more comfortable for themselves. And I saw plenty of other opportunities for them in that game to kind of get a shot on target, and they just didn't. They're not a side who were probably expecting too many of those, so they got shocked a couple of times. But yeah, I think this game it's going to be different. What we've seen recently is a lot of their games. I mean, obviously they got beat 3-0 of Hibs, but a lot of their games are quite tight. So I don't see this game being super high scoring. I think there was 1 goal in it the last time they played Dundee United. So yeah, I think it's going to be they've got the quality within that squad. Get themselves in good positions and try and get a goal. But I don't think it's that. I think the stadium thing it's probably frustrating, but you just get on with it. I'd imagine they won't really bother. I think ultimately, if the club have told them it's a good thing for us financially, they don't really need to hear about it. They're playing for their fans, and even if there's only 1 stand of them, they're playing for them.
Simo Valakari was saying about the game that tomorrow's game. He says it was important we got 3 points last week as we need them, but now we need to focus on this weekend. He was talking about Dundee United. He said they're a very strong team and they play good football as well. Robbie, I know St Johnstone, before we turn our attention to United, St Johnstone's got a big semi-final next week they've got a chance of making the final. But if you're in that position, I don't know about seeing with Valakari what he's saying to the players every week, but he must be saying, like every week, cricket is a cup final.
I think him and the players need to treat it like a cup final. He made his intentions very clear once the draw was made for the semi-final that he was going to enjoy the moment. I think even Valakari knew deep down that he's never going to say it, but I think he knew deep down at the time this was going to be a really hard challenge to try and beat Celtic next week. As it's getting closer, I'm sure he'll be feeling more confident than he probably was when the draw first get made. As Alan said, they didn't look a Premiership team against Livingston. I'd say they struggled through the game, but it took one moment of magic for Graham Carey to get them through. But I think he'll be positive. I think the players need to be positive. They need to go out there, and we know how Valakari plays now. He's not going to sit back against Dundee United or Celtic. He likes to have a go. It's a refreshing to watch. I think for the Johnston fans and the neutral, you're used to a St Johnston team in the past that do sit back, do try and counter attack, and play the whole long balls. But that's not what he's about. He utilises midfielders really, really well in games. So I think St Johnston, yes, they'll treat every game like a cup final, but they'll also treat every game like go and have a go. What's the worst that can happen? I think I always say this. As a St fan, if you're the underdog in a game, I'd rather have a go and get beat 2 or 3-0 than sit back and get beat 1-0. That just doesn't entertain me as a fan.
Yep. And as for Dundee United, Gavin, they've been in good form of late as well, having a few decent results. I'm thinking about the last 2 Sundays, about what was it, Ross County they had away, and then they went to Tynecastle as well.
Yeah, they have. I think they had a sort of sticky run in February, but that includes the Old Firm, so that's to be expected as a newly promoted team. But they did the groundwork. They've got themselves in a position which I think we've seen a few sides do it. I think when Hearts first came back up a few years ago, they had a storming run to third place on their promoted season. It isn't unusual for it to happen, but it certainly warrants praise because it is brilliant. What I'd say is, though, Falkirk beat them 2-0 in pre-season, so that should be remembered. 2-0, quite comfortable. But they have strengthened since then. I think their signings, especially up top, it's been phenomenal. The quality of the goals they're scoring are really, really good. And you're seeing news this week come out. They're already sort of starting to put in the planning for next year with Tony Watt, I think, is getting let go. A few of the other ones, they're going to make some moves. So obviously that's their future planning for potential Europe. I think they're quite smart about the way they play, barring some sort of derby results and playing Hibs. They've generally again been quite composed, leaking a couple of goals, but nothing major, nothing. Just keeping it tight at the back and scoring, and that's ultimately what they'll continue to try and do. I think they'll see a St Johnstone side who need to win, and they'll know that St Johnstone have to come at them in some capacity. So I can imagine them absorbing a bit of pressure and then just using their class and their composure to try and get a comfortable win.
There we go. So Alan's counting down the time to kick off tonight at Somerset Park. We'll move on to that, and also I'll let you into a secret. I'm going to keep you guessing here, Alan, but I was out last Saturday night. I do go out once a week. That's people give me money and they go out. And I saw a Falkirk play in Glasgow at 11:30 on Saturday night, and it was actually looking quite sober. Anyway, I will give you the answer very soon. If you want to guess who it is, you're welcome to. Let's move on to the game of the weekend, Robbie. Tomorrow, you might say it's St Mirren Ross County, but I'm going to say it's Motherwell and Hearts.
No, I'd agree. As a St Mirren fan, though, I'm going to be keeping one eye on this fixture. This is obviously, it's a big weekend, and I actually feel all the pressure is on Hearts for this game. Motherwell know they need a lot to go in their favour. They need Ross County to come to Paisley and stun us, and then they need to beat Hearts, which Look, I think Motherwell are very much capable of beating Hearts. I think they can do it. But look, it's going to be a struggle. Hearts will know that, almost like Alan was saying with St Johnstone Dundee United, you know, Motherwell will know that Hearts need to come at them in the game. The Hearts can't afford to sit back and play for the draw. That's not good enough. So they will know that all the pressure's on Hearts in this game. It's just whether, what Vima we're going to see. It's been very up and down for Motherwell so far since they came into the job. There's been no consistency to these games, so this is going to be an interesting game. But we know how big the pressure is on both the clubs, more particularly in Hearts as well. There's a lot of pressure on Croucher that it doesn't live up to the big games when Hearts are tasked with them. So this is going to be a very interesting game.
Alan, this is going to be what you would say a 6-pointer game as well, but I think as well this is a cup final in itself because as the ABBA song goes, the winner takes it all.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing. We will look at. You mentioned about league reconstruction, and that's been the topic of the last couple of weeks ever since that stupid article came out. No, the article wasn't stupid, but the proposal for a 10-team league. But we'll look at the excitement we've got going into the split. It's this. We want more teams. We want more variety. But this, for now, is an exciting season, and we have to look at it as such. There's loads of big games. I mean, you spoke about, there's 6-pointers in there, but you've also got big games and opportunities. I mean, obviously Rangers just came off the back of that performance last night, and you've got them playing away to Aberdeen. That's a massive opportunity because Aberdeen are only a few points off of. I think Aberdeen almost need to win in order to get themselves an opportunity for third. So there are big games all over the place this weekend, and it's going to be brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So yeah, you'll have one E on that one, Robbie, but also you'll have your focus on St Mirren Park tomorrow, St Mirren and Ross County. Just wanting your take, guys, before we move on. I know we done the show last night. It's been a bit busy week. Robbie, about VR and the incident about the Rangers game. Was it a handball? Was it offside? Was it a goal or whatever kind of thing? I give you a wee insight into what Michael Vimmer was saying at his press conference yesterday. I was there and they were talking about I think he come from, is it Austria, football that he's from? I can't remember. But he was saying about VR and they've never used VAR over there. And basically he said, if it was up to me, I would scrap VR, tonight. And obviously we are on the show tonight and everybody's watching the show would want to get rid of it. But I thought that was quite interesting, like a manager kind of thing, coming out and kind of saying that. But I'm always interested in about somebody not from the UK coming to the UK and saying about VR and stuff like that.
I mean, look, Vima's barely had any games and he wants to start VR. So I mean, I suppose it's better to ask Alan about this as the Falkirk fan that VR's in the championship, but you will get to see it more. For what you have seen, Alan, what do you agree with Vima? Do you think it should be scrapped?
This is a really difficult one because the quality of refereeing in the championship and in the lower leagues in general is quite poor. So there's, but genuinely, the ability to celebrate goals at the time is brilliant. The ability to, if something doesn't happen, for instance, and obviously I've not forgotten about it, but there was the 0-0 draw at the Falkirk Stadium against Livingston. We had a goal disallowed because the linesman deemed it to be over the byline. Now it wasn't, and the replay shows that it wasn't. So if we weren't in the position we are now, you'd be like, oh, if we had VAR, we could look at that. But as a fan base, you kind of just, it was chatted about in the fan podcast, like in the Monday after it, and then just everybody moved on. You moved on with your season. We had another red card rescinded down. Luke Graham got sent off when Oakley grabbed his arm and pushed him onto the ball. Now, at the time, the referee gave a straight red. Obviously, if he'd had the chance to look at it on VAR, he would have changed his mind. But again, we took the defeat. I think we lost 5-2 down there. That was the last away game at Ayr. and we've moved on, and maybe that result's fueled a bit of the team's passion to kind of accelerate in the league. But as a fan base, again, yeah, you were annoyed for a week, but then you move on. You can rest knowing that these decisions, and if it's a bad referee or whatever, it's a bad referee on the day. You're no worried about somebody in Clydesdale House or whatever re-refereeing a game and having to wait 6 minutes. We all get home at whatever 5 o'clock as normal. There's no massive delays. So as a fan, I would love the quality of refereeing to be more. That's something I do want to see, but I do not want to see VAR.
Well, Michael, that's interesting because, when you're in the Premiership, Alan, you'll soon learn when you come up that with VAR, no decision ever gets left after a week. It can be talked about for months. So that's interesting to me.
Did you guys? So obviously, I don't know if they're still doing it. I kind of liked the idea at the start of the season when Willie Collum put together those VAR reviews shows where he'd go on. How did you feel about? Did you feel that there was more transparency and that made it better, or did it just make it worse?
Yeah, my opinion is, I know Michael shook his head there. My opinion is it's good. It's too long. If you get it, it's not it's not consistent enough. We're seeing it every month. Simon have had a few bad decisions this season. We get to see it like a month after, which is no use. I want to hear Colin talk about it after the game and give his thoughts on everything that's happened on that weekend, because if we wait in a month till after that decision's happened, as you said, it doesn't get talked about anymore. Unless it is, I think, in my opinion, Celtic and Rangers decisions are more likely to carry on for a few weeks after it's happened. We still get some of the Old Firm decisions being talked about from the game at Celtic Park. So, look, my opinion is I think the concept of the show is a good idea. I just don't think it's regular enough. I think every month is not enough.
So I make the we done a show about VR a few months ago, Alan, and we invited Des, and forgive me, I can't remember the behind the whistle sorry, it used to be called behind the whistle podcast, now it's called the Review. So my opinion on it is there's a guy to do away with that VR show, right, and put it on Sports Scene on a Saturday night, right? But so that would make sense not to do a show on its own. In saying that, I think that it's quite embarrassing for Scottish football to see that. Obviously, it would clarify it for the fans and the fans at the game and all that, but as well. But it's a wee bit funny what I'm going to see here, but I always feel watching that programme with Willie Collum, he should be called Willie Sorry Collum, because every month he's got to say, "Oh, I'm sorry for that mistake." Now, I mean, it's very good that we've kind of got that, but it's good in a way, but it's also quite kind of bad because you're guaranteed that he's going to say sorry about 5 times for the mistakes that the ref has made. So I don't think it's a kind of good move for the league, and especially in the west of Scotland, and you'll get to know this next season when you come up to the big boys league, Alan. But the west of Scotland, Robbie's right. The conversation won't go on for 5 minutes. It'll go on for 5 days or 5 weeks.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. I think, to be honest, the position that I'm in at the moment is that VAR, the length of time being delayed, the quality of some of the decisions, the lack of transparency, and sort of like just even having the referee mic'd up so that when something's happening, he can at least speak to the fans and say, "This is what's happening. This is what we're looking at. We'll be with you as quickly as we can," and then having some sort of time element where the VAR assistant's got 60 seconds, and if he can't see it within 60 seconds, then it's not a clear and obvious error.
I
So
think
that,
I seem to remember that your first show was Falkirk and Inverness in the Scottish Cup semi-final, and that was our first experience at Falkirk Hag with VR. Am I right?
Probably. Yeah, that would
Yeah,
have been right because it was at Hampden.
yeah.
God, all I remember, as soon as you said that, the first thing that came back to me was
I know, I know,
Morrison and nearly
I
equalised when
know.
he hit the post.
I know. Sorry to bring it back to you, even though you've been having good times. We must move on because so little time left, and Alan wants to spend a big part of the time talking about the champions in the championship. Um, let's go to Paisley, Robbie, very quickly to talk about the game. St Mirren and Ross County, but I mean, I can only see one win here, one team winning the game, and it's going to be a big achievement because am I right in saying that if St Mirren reaches 40 points, then that they've kind of broke a record?
Yeah, so if someone reached 40 points and get into the top six, it'll be the quickest we've ever done it in our history. Which like solidifies Stephen Robinson as our greatest ever manager even more, which I already think he is. But this, you've kept me on around 36 minutes, Michael, to speak about this game. You know, you've let my nerves build up. No, this is going to be a big one. I'm no set on that. I think it's going to be an easy day at the office. We came on the show, I think it was me, you, Reagan, and I think Alistair was on when we played St Johnstone at home, and we all said the same thing. We thought it would be a comfortable evening for St Mirren. St Johnstone won the game 1-0. So, that just shows that anything can happen in the league. And let's not forget, for Ross County have had a very good season by their standards. They've avoided relegation for the most part, and they've been in around mid-table. So it's, that's a Ross County team that, yes, I know the last couple of results haven't been great, but it's been low blows. I feel like they've done well in some spells, so they'll be full of confidence coming to Paisley. They'll be looking to ruin our party of potentially getting top six, but I, I've got to have some confidence that we can get it done. I don't think it will be easy. I think we will scrap away to victory, and ultimately, in my opinion, try to be as unbiased as possible as a St Mirren fan, I think we will end the day in the top six.
Alan will be passing ships and the third ships there by the way. Falkirk coming up and Ross County going down.
Oh, don't know. It certainly looks bad news for Ross County, but I still think it's a big gap for St Johnstone to sort of make up. I think obviously the playoffs, I still think that they're weighted too much in the Premiership favour. I think the gap's too big. However, I guess with Livingston looking like they're on course to finish second, they did sort of stifle St Johnstone at the home of the Set Fair Arena. So I think if Livingston end up with a home in the home tie, they could potentially take a Ross County or take a St Johnstone. I just think there's no one else. I don't think Ayr could handle. Yeah.
I know that me and Robbie was talking about the playoffs, and I mean, you don't have to worry about that this season, Alan, right? Because you're coming up maybe was it one more game after tonight, and sorry, one more win after tonight as well. But in terms of like the playoffs, how do you feel about the final? I mean, should it be two legs? I don't think it should. I think it should be a one-off game.
I wish it was one off. I remember when we played Kilmarnock, God knows how many years ago, maybe 2013, 2014, something like that. We won the first leg 1-0 at the Falkirk Stadium and then got
And you
hammered
get beat.
in Kilmarnock.
Yeah.
So if that was a single leg, we would have been promoted again. But yeah, I think it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one. A single leg at a neutral venue, that would make it a more attractive piece. Maybe not a Hampden, but perhaps a decent sized stadium centrally between both clubs involved. I'd be in favour of that. I think the challenge is always going to be, and I actually had a really good conflicting thing from on one of the Falkirk podcasts who were previewing the Ayr game with an Ayr fan, and they spoke about how Ayr they've had their playoff experience and they've had the experience of being the team in second who had to wait and got a free week while third and fourth play their game. then they play second, and because of that free week, they kind of went in disjointed and not quite on it, and they end up getting beat. Whereas if you're the team in third or fourth, you're playing your games straight into another set of games. Then obviously if you go through those, you're playing consistently. So the Premiership team, they've always got more strength, bigger squads, stronger side. There's pros and cons to it. I think it's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, I would definitely be in favour of a single leg. I think it needs to be weighted more for the championship. I don't think. See, if you finish second bottom, you don't deserve any priorities in the playoff. I don't think it's. I don't think that you've earned that. I think the team who gets the playoff having to go through two ties, they deserve something.
So let's go back to the St Mirren and Ross County game before we move to the championship. And I can see Alan's got the champagne behind him there. So Robbie, will your nerves be down at your fingers and your quick tomorrow? Do you think you'll win the game comfortably?
Nah, I don't think it'll be comfortable. But like I say that, and we could go and score another 5 goals like we done against Kilmarnock. It's so on and off with St. It really does depend if we take our chances. Obviously, Robinson switched up the team sheet lately. I think he's insistent in his press on staying the same. I think he wants to keep the front two of Adobe and Ayunga, which seems to be working. I know obviously the big news for St. fans this week is Robinson's offered a lot of contracts out to a lot of different bodies, which I'm glad to see. I want to see Boyd Munn stick around. Probably, surprisingly, as much as I'd love to see Olasanya stay, Boydman's probably the only one I can see staying, and the one I really want to see. I think he's unlocked a big chunk of his game. This season, he went through tough times. He had a baby and whatnot. Well, Michael has was in the show, but him and his wife had a baby. So
I like how you're listening to me now, Robbie. Yeah. I'm teaching you well, son.
Yeah, it had a bit of a stressful start this year, but he's really unlocked the game. So, like, I want to be confident and say we are gonna be confident, but I just never know with Stitman. Saying that, one of my eyes again is going to be on the Motherwell Hearts game for the full 90 minutes, because why would it not? If we get top 6, it'll be Stitman's best 3 seasons in our history, consecutively. No other managers managed to get 3 consecutive top 6s. For me, it would make Robinson, again, I think he already is, but the best Stitman manager of all time. And look, if we get into top 6, the route to getting European football is borderline impossible. There's that big a gap that whoever does get 6th place most likely won't be getting European football. So we can just kick our feet up if we get it. And if we don't, by the way, and Ross County beat us, they go joint on points with us, which instantly makes the last 5 games big. I was reading a stat, we've taken more points off the top 4 teams this season than we have overall against the bottom 6 clubs. Or the bottom 5 clubs, sorry, which tells you everything you need to know. If we need to play these crunch games against St Johnstone and Dundee, Kilmarnock, I think we struggle. I don't think we get relegated, but we would struggle for the rest of the season. So let's just hope we can get the win and get into top 6.
Okay, let's move on to the championship, and before I move on to that, Leo on the chat was saying, was it Arfield? How did you know? Did you see me last week as well? I was standing outside one of these kind of fast foody places, and he walked past me, Alan. But you know that way. It's like, I know that guy's face, but it took me like a few seconds to say, that's Scott Arfield. I was surprised because he's actually quite a wee guy when you see him. He's not that tall. But anyway, let's move on to the championship then. A big game tonight. Falkirk, Ayr United again. Falkirk court take kickoff. Morton against Rubinskin, Packet Thistle against Hamilton. By the way, it's good to see Ian Barraclough back in Scottish football as the sporting director. We might chat about that in a minute. We've got Queen's Park against Dunfermline and Rafe Roberts against Airdrie. And I think I'll come to Alan for the game of the weekend, and I think it's going to be think it's going to be Ayr United against Falkirk. That's going to be a cracking game to watch tonight.
Yeah, it should be. I think just as a general championship fan, there's loads of big games, and I think it kicks off tonight because the result is whatever the result is, it sets up the rest of the weekend in terms of the other fixtures. So if we win tonight, Livingston have to win tomorrow, otherwise we win the title. So that's the situation. If we get 3 points, Livingston need to win tomorrow to delay us another week. So it's only a delay, but obviously it's important because Ayr technically at this moment can still win the title. Or at the very least, they're still chasing second. So Ayr come into this on what is a really important week for them because they play us tonight, and then they play Livingston next week. So that's again 2 games they'll really want to win. 1 to get the momentum back, and 2 that cements them the 6 points for the second place. Also, if we were to implode, they're still in with a chance of winning the league. So that's the setup for the weekend. So definitely, for me personally, if a club can go on to win a title, that's going to be the game of the weekend. Us and Ayr, we tend to have good games anyway. We had, I think, a 2 each draw at the Falkirk Stadium. We had the 5-2 game I mentioned earlier, where we had a man sent off, which was later rescinded. Which that game could have ended up any score anyway, but a man down, Ayr just took advantage. We had a game at the Falkirk Stadium prior to that, and then we also played them in the round robin stage of the cup in pre-season, where they beat us 1-0 down there. So we've had some really back and forth. We've not taken no teams dominated that fixture, so that's going to be an interesting game. At the bottom, it's I mean it's mad because you've got the likes of Hamilton, who there's this rumor that they're potentially going to face 6-point deduction. So that could totally open it up because at the moment you've got an informed Airdrie side coming back, winning games, beating Partick last week. They'll pose Wraith Rovers problems. But if Hamilton get docked 6 points, then that opens that back up, and then you've got Queen's Park, Dunfermline, and Airdrie and Hamilton all fighting to avoid relegation in the playoffs. So and then obviously Morton and Partick, and I need to check the table again, but you've got a couple of sides looking for that 4th place in the playoffs. So it's, oh man, this is the most exciting league in football. Never mind the Premiership.
I think can I just ask you a bit before we go on to talk about the game? Can I just ask you in terms of like might be jumping ahead here, but when Falkirk wins the league, because I'm very confident that they will win. I'm just saying that because you're here, by no. But is there any plans for Falkirk to finish off the Skigum? Because I mean, I don't know about you, Robbie, but it is a cracking Skigum, the Falkirk Skigum, good atmosphere and all that. But I think it would add a bit more if they kind of built that stand, like opposite the main stand. Is there any plans in the making to make that happen?
Yes, there is. There is. So at the beginning of March, we made progress, and the club purchased the South Stand. So the South Stand was owned by, I think, the South Stand Company, which was a supporter who'd helped build and develop that. So they handed over to the club, and that came with the land for where that 4th stand would be, or the East Stand, if you like. So we've just in March acquired that ground. That does give us the ground now, the opportunity to kind of put something in place there. Now, when we were in the Premier League before, I believe that we had a temporary stand, like a single tiered temporary stand we put along there, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 seats, which obviously is revenue. The only issue that I can see in terms of getting it, building a new stand will be expensive. It'll be very, very expensive. In terms of as a club, we're fan owned. When we made our aim was to break even this season, we budgeted for 5th place to do that. Now, obviously, it looks like we're going to win the league, which brings with that probably an extra, I would say, in the region of 300,000. We have obviously outlaid a bit more, getting Arfield, bringing in loan signings like Brophy and Luke Graham and stuff again. So we've spent a little bit of that money, but we've had loads of exposure. Friday night football again. I think we've been on TV the 3rd most times in Scotland, behind Rangers and Celtic, so which is incredible for a club who are in the Championship. But that's just testament to the style of football we play and how every game is open. And very, very rarely, there's a boring Falkirk game, which hopefully if we do get promoted, will hopefully bring that with us to the Premier League, which in my fear is going to end up being like 6-0 humpings at the hands of like Dundee and that. But I'll take it. You notice how I didn't say St Mirren there.
Aye,
But
that's it.
but yeah, I think that the plan is in place. I think the biggest barrier to that is this new stupid rule banning artificial surfaces. So if that doesn't get contested or manages to stand, we'll have to outlay just shy of £1 million, which is basically all of the money
Oh,
we gain
aye.
from getting promoted.
I forgot about Falkirk's got the artificial surface. But I would say maybe one of the better ones.
It is the best one. So we've only had ours a couple of seasons, and we always gloat and there's a wee thing about it being Champions League standard, but it is. We've had the under 16s and under 17s Euros and stuff play matches there. Scotland regularly. They won't even recently. They had, I think it was the under 17s and under 18s played at Falkirk. The reason being it's the highest quality artificial surface. Just a very quick crash course on artificial surfaces. They tend to have a lifespan of about 5 years. If it goes beyond 5 years, every year afterwards it will become a worse surface. What you have at the moment is there's no criteria for maintaining a surface to that standard. So when a club gets to 5 years, there's nobody putting pressure on them to say you have to replace that surface. So they just go, well, I'll do it next season. And then like Kilmarnock, who's on like year 7 or year 8, they just kick it down the road because they want to buy players this summer. So that's the issue you've got at the moment. And you can see pitches like Livingston, like Kilmarnock. There's a few in our division as well, Hamilton, etc. And they're crap because they're beyond their safe working life. Whereas Falkirk's is only in year 2, and we've obviously said that we'll happily replace it at year 5, a year before. Well, it'll be worse. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I can't see it standing because ultimately it could mean us getting relegated, which we've already had us done when they did the 10,000 seater rule, which they then changed again. So having the experience that happening to us already, I can't see how it could legally stand that we get relegated again for a similar reason.
Okay, Robbie's got tonight's team news. I don't know if you saw it yet, Aaron, but Robbie will give us the team news. On you go, Robbie.
Yeah, so first up for us, Harry Stone, Nick McAllister. I don't know the positions, by the way. Clubs like to do this thing where they put the numbers first instead of positions, so it's got to work that out. But Stone, McAllister, Redding, Dempsey is the captain, George Oakley, Conor McLennan, George Stranger, Jake Hasty, Marco Russ, Curtis Main, and Scott McMahon. The Falkirk team sheets are Hogarth, Henderson, Donaldson, Spencer, Oliver, Adams, Tate, Ross, Mackay, Miller, and of course Scott Arfield. I wanted to ask you first of all thoughts on the team sheet, but as well, I mean, there's obviously only one man that for a Premiership guy that's very neutral in the Championship and likes checking it. First of all, by the way, thank you for beating Morton 5-0. But and in terms of Falkirk, I mean, there's only one man on everyone's lips in the Premiership, and it's of course Scott Arfield. I mean, what a signing he's been for you. I mean, how much has he just turned your season like that? Because as soon as he came in, he's just started scoring goals.
See the biggest thing I'd say, and the thing we quite enjoy. He's been phenomenal. 8 goals in 9 games. He's influencing games in terms of even in the game against Morton last week. You just see that kind of that first time passing, that quality on the ball, brilliant. But what I would say is that although he's the man at the moment, we were a really good side before him, and we're a very good side even when he's not played, because we've left him out a couple of games because we've got such a good squad. You can kind of do that. You can afford to do that and let him rest and make sure he's not carrying any niggles. So I think what he brings on the field, obviously quality. Off the field, I can just imagine what the buzz must be in the place, just because he's such a brilliant character, like such a brilliant character. He's a Falkirk guy. He obviously scored his 100th career goal and his 101st. He scored his first at Falkirk and his 100th. So he carries the club. The club is him. So I think having a guy like that around with his experience, it's galvanising in terms of, I think, where we were when he came in. You were probably about to have a lull, and he just stopped that from happening. He just kept us up. What I would say is that he scored some big goals for us. And he's influenced a lot of games. If he scores, I'd love him to score in a big game. So like tonight, because he's not scored against Livingston, and I would have loved him to do that. But if he can do it tonight, that's fine. Even if he doesn't do it tonight, it's fine. He's had a brilliant impact. But yeah, I think what he's allowed is he's given everybody an extra leader to look up to. He's a great footballer, and off the pitch, that personality, that buzz he's given everybody is phenomenal. As like Falkirk fans, incredible.
Sorry, just quickly, but before obviously speak about a team sheet, is he contracted to take a punt on the Premiership? Do you think he will?
Yes, so he was. From my understanding, it was an end of the season plus option of a year, and I believe there'll be something in that option for it being Premiership. Because I think if we hadn't got promoted, he might have wanted at least the option to find somebody else. Because you can see he can probably play for anybody, barring maybe. I mean, a lot of Rangers fans said they would happily have him as a squad player in that team. So I think he's got the quality to go back up. So that's what the deal is. So pending promotion, he'll be rolled on for another season, which is brilliant. Also this week, just on contract news, we've signed an extension for Alfie Aguiman, who's not had a whole lot of game time this season, but he's got pace, he's threatening. His biggest performance this season was against Celtic at Celtic Park in that cup game, and that's the level we want to see him at. So I think he doesn't get the same amount of space in a championship fixture as he will get in a Premiership fixture. So I think he's been tied up with that in mind. And then the second one was Gary Oliver this week as well. He triggered a contact extension, the number of games played. So we're doing that thing, was what we did last year. We're keeping the squad together.
What do you make of the team news, Alan? Is any surprises for you, or?
So the key thing for anybody else watching us is, for some reason, against the likes of Ayr against Livy in particular, John McGlynn, one of the things we looked at early season was how physical these two sides are, and how we tended to look quite small because obviously but you saw our field, yeah, like he looks a bit smaller,
Yeah.
but we tend to be quite technical and quite pacey, and that then comes with a little sacrifice of physicality. So what he tried to do in the Livingston games and against Ayr as well is put in a strong team on in order to combat that physicality. But ultimately, we're not playing the same way we did before, so we've not got the results, and we've also not played the same way we usually do. So as fans, we've been going, don't change it. So what you see in this squad lineup is we've got Mackie. So Mackie is our left back. Mackie and McCann. Then he's chucked Luke Graham in there, who's a centre back by trade, just to get another tall player on the park. It hasn't worked greatly. So I think it's really good to see that he's just put Mackie in. Mackie's at left back. Again, he's starting with that almost false nine because Oliver's not an out-and-out striker, but what he does so well is link the forward play and allows the wingers in your Ross and in your Miller to kind of go by him. And they too will be the ones that create the chances. Oliver will really move defenders all over the park and allow the wingers chances to kind of go up. And against Ayr, who need to win, that'll be the players to watch. You'll want to watch Oliver come in a bit deeper, drag defenders across the park, and then you'll see Ross and Miller bursting up the wings, and then Arfield just being Arfield in the centre. That's the standouts.
Quick word on Ayr United, Robbie, before we finish up. What about Scott Brown's team?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's an obvious name in there for me, Curtis Main. You know, you speak about wanting to be physical in a game. I think he gives you that. Although I've not watched him in the Championship, I don't know how he's got on, to be honest. But it does give you that physical sort of link. Obviously, Jake Casty's a name that, by the way, I've not heard Jake Casty's name being mentioned in years. I think it's been a while since I've heard his name, but look, he's a quality player. They've got a team that, you know, they're very much together. You know, Scott Brown, he's still, you know, he's not the most experienced coach. I think he's probably still learning himself this season. I think they will get a playoff spot. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but you know, the last few matches haven't exactly been what I think he probably would have expected. But look, Ayer's still a quality side. I think they can cause Falkirk problems. Doing that on the flip side, Falkirk just seem to be smashing absolutely everybody right now. So, I mean, like, it's going to be an interesting game. As I said, I expect it to be open. I expect there to be a lot of goals. And it should be a really, really good watch.
Couple of minutes left, guys. Quick one, Robbie, Alan, who's your manager of the year?
Alan, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna give you my reasoning, right? So you'll say David Gray, right? And David Gray was shit until November time, right? And then he's been phenomenal since then, right? You could say Tulane, but then you've got Aberdeen started terrible, and then they started brilliant and then turned terrible. So it can't be him. Goodwin's obviously done superb. He's come up. He's obviously solidifying himself in the top 6. Brilliant. Still on a chance of third. Phenomenal. But he's not won the league. And as the promoted team in the championship, we look to be winning the league. And I think as a newly promoted team coming up, I can only say that that's the way it has to go. It has to be John McGlynn.
Robbie?
I agree. My pick's also John McGlynn as well. But this Falkirk season's very much Football Manager. You know, you take a team in League One, you bring in some free agent signings out of nowhere who are just 10 times better than your level. You smash the league, you go to the Championship. It's just rinse and repeat until you get to the Premiership. The work that John McGlynn's put in this Falkirk team is it's outstanding to watch. You know, I've not got to watch Falkirk too much, but they all look together. It's all positive. You know, it's not just, you know, it's not like Falkirk have nipped in at the top of the league. They've dominated games. They've put a lot of goals past teams. For me, that can't be overlooked. As Alan rightly said, David Gray didn't start off the best. Tulane has fallen off. He's no looked the best. The only other one in contention for me, well, obviously Brendan Rodgers has got to be in the mix. He's about to win a treble, but Jim Goodwin's the only other one that's, you know, he's not had a significant period of negative results and looking bad. Obviously, they had the month, as Alan said earlier, where, you know, they played the Old Firm. But for me, it's only between Goodwin and John McGlynn. For me, it's got to be McGlynn.
And there you go. That's the manager of the year. Before
Michael,
we go,
Michael, sorry, what about you? Who's your manager of the year?
I'm the best manager, by the way. Fantasy football, PlayStation, and all that. No, it has to be John McGlynn. I mean, he's done a brilliant job, back-to-back promotions as well. So yeah, I think he'll be the manager of the year. I would say Brendan Rodgers, but you know, obviously he's won the treble. Well, the double at the moment, but he's got to get past it. Johnson first, Robbie, to get to the final kind of thing, you know. But no, John McGlynn's favourite for me. I would be very surprised if he doesn't win it, and as well. But before we go, I know we like to laugh on the show sometimes, Alan, and that's why you come on here for the banter. But do you want to hear Robbie's favourite for the Grand National tomorrow?
No, definitely do not listen to my horse racing picks. Aye, no, please don't.
Brilliant.
But aye, Alan, by the way, just saying good luck for tonight and good luck for the rest of the season as well. I'm sure you will get the league wrapped up, but I hope you enjoy the celebrations when it eventually does happen.
Oh no, man! I think as a Falkirk fan, I think we've all had the 5 years in League One, and I think every single one of us is just enjoying this because it might be a tough year next year if we do get up.
And before we go, good luck to the women's Scottish rugby Six Nations then action tomorrow against the Italia. I like Italian pizza, but anyway, that's for another show. We'll be back on Sunday if Robbie is behind the couch. Robbie in front of the couch, all dancing about the living room. And Alan, thanks for joining us. Brilliant to see you as always. And it'll be a good game tonight, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Bye. Pleasure to see you guys.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live